2, 1. Welcome to the David the Dog Trainer Podcast, episode 167.
167.
That's David the Dog Trainer, all one word. That's why I screwed that up, is because I said it too fast.
Yeah.
You know?
David the Dog Trainer.
David the Dog Trainer Podcast, episode 167. All right, here we are. Okay, so today, here's what we're going to do today, right?
Yeah.
We are going to go through our TikTok, watch some of our most recent videos, and just commentate on those videos, because we have a couple of videos over the last couple of days that have just been going. One of them in particular, stupid viral for all of the wrong reasons. And then the rest of them are just like interesting little hot takes that have been causing a bunch of controversy.
Okay.
So what I want to do is we're literally just going to go through and just watch video by video by video, discussing some of them, some of the comments we've been getting, and just kind of do a little reacty thing.
Ooh, I like it.
You know?
Let's do it.
So let's get the frig into it. How about that?
Let's do it.
How about that? Hold on. I got my coffee today. Let me take a sip of it.
Ooh, in the Cleveland mug.
4th cup already, and I woke up at like 9 a.m. this morning, so it's a lot of coffee for a short period of time.
Get my notebook out.
Get your notebook out. All right. We're going to start from the tip top, including the pinned videos that we have, because I feel like they almost pertain to the videos that we're going to be talking about specifically here.
Okay.
So, Josh, you let me know when you're ready.
I am ready.
Let's start with this first one. This is Thor. Those of you who don't remember Thor was a pit bull that came in. Real nasty little guy.
Yeah, I
super
remember.
fearful. Real bitey. Mm-hmm. He's a bitey boy. And Thor had an awesome transformation. I actually spoke with his owner recently. I mean, this dude trained with us probably 2 years ago, something like that. He's crushing it at home, doing really well. This video is going to tie into the videos we're going to talk about pertaining to this husky that I worked with. So let's start with this one.
All right.
Hold on. There we go. A butthead, dude. I also think it's hilarious how in this video, when Paige clipped it, she left in it me calling him a butthead, because I feel like it was so fitting.
Yeah.
Because he was being a butthead.
He'll just bark.
Yep. Well, nobody pushes the envelope, obviously. You know, when he's barking like he was when he came in, nobody's going to be going up and petting him or anything like that by any means. Where you see right now, he probably would have rather just got away from me and he went hid by you or something like that. But because I'm not allowing him to do that, he's escalating. Because he's learned that barking, growling makes people go away. So wait a minute, barking, growling isn't working right now. So now I need to resort to biting, right? I need to resort to doing other things. A butthead, dude.
Okay. So, simple video. So what was the point of highlighting this video? One, it was to show obviously where this dog was starting with things.
Yep.
So obviously he was starting aggressive, right? He learned, like I said, I can't talk today. Biting, barking, lunging, growling makes people go away, right? So I've said this 8 million times when working with dogs like this, right? Well, you see this comment right here. You're forcing the dog into a state of aggression, right? The dog was aggressive to begin with, right? Yeah. All I did was I did the trigger. That is a very reasonable trigger, which is I need to be able to touch this dog. And that did, in fact, so sure, yeah, I triggered the dog into a state of aggression in that moment, right? But it's like, we have to work past the me being able to touch this dog, right? This dog was coming in for a boarding train. I needed to be able to collar this dog. I needed to be able to leash this dog. I needed for my staff to be able to safely handle this dog. In order for that to happen, I have to be able to touch the dog. No ifs, ands, or buts, right? So I think the common theme you guys are going to see as we watch some of these videos and talk about some of these videos is just the way society is shifting in this direction of everything has to be of choice to the dog, right? The dog has to be okay with anything it is that you are doing if you want to do it to them. And I don't mean the dog has to tolerate it. I mean, you have to ask the dog permission and constantly work with the dog's threshold and never go past it for everything.
Yeah.
That is not real life. What happens when you do that? Let's say we avoid all these problems. I was highlighting in this video also because I was putting my hand on this dog and the dog was reacting, obviously. And I wasn't stopping. I was taking away the reinforcement behind the behavior. The dog then doubled down on the behavior, intensified the behavior because he's like, wait a minute, this usually works. So maybe if I try a little bit harder, maybe it ultimately will work. We call this in dog training call this an extinction burst, right? So what an extinction burst is when a behavior typically accomplishes a desired result, but it's no longer accessing the reinforcement that the dog is trying to access. They will double down on and intensify the reaction prior to the behavior extinguishing, right?
Last-ditch effort.
Last-ditch effort. Let me try twice as hard. Let me give it my all this time just to see if it works. And then once they finally realize, even through that it doesn't work, then the behavior will then subside.
Yep.
Some like to call this learned helplessness. The difference that I always describe in the case of learned helplessness versus like an extinction burst in a case like this is that learned helplessness is a dog needing to forever tolerate a truly aversive experience and realizing that there is no escape from said aversive experience, right? Yep. So let's say I was doing something that actually was like painful to this dog, right? And it's like, because right now he has a perceived fear that I am going to do something really scary to him. And yes, that means that the lead up to it is aversive in the moment. Like me reaching down and petting him is aversive to him, but it's only aversive because of what he thinks may happen, right? So by putting him in that situation and teaching him to tolerate that aversive thing in the short term, right? What happens is in the long term, we get him used to and desensitize him to that initial aversive experience. You know what I'm saying? You following along here?
Hit me that again. So
okay. So this dog has a fear of something aversive happening.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say in the past, people pet him, right? And that petting leads to, him getting poked at the vet.
Okay.
Right? Or getting, his ear cleaned out, or he's cutting his nails and cutting it too short.
Okay.
Or whatever it may be, right? Let's use nail trimming. It's the most clear example, right? Dogs inherently don't necessarily have an aversion to having their paws touched, but if repetition, touching the paw leads to cutting a nail too short and it becoming painful through classical conditioning, the touching of the paw becomes aversive because of his fear of what it might turn into.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think that's the most clear way that I can describe it, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? So as we work through it, because I know there's nothing inherently aversive about me touching the paw, it's just the connection and the classically conditioned response of what that has led to in the past. The only way to get past it is by showing him through repetition that touching the paw does not, in fact, lead to that. Right?
Okay,
So in the short term, yes, it is an aversive experience to the dog. But in the long term, as he realizes that aversive experience does not lead to the truly aversive experience, it becomes desensitized to that. And then you could work past it.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes 100%
So the dog is
sense.
proactively exhibiting self-preservation.
Yep.
Right? They're not exhibiting self-preservation to a truly aversive thing happening. They are proactively exhibiting that self-preservation.
Yeah.
Right? So that is the difference between what we're doing here or something like learned helplessness, right? Learned helplessness, you could argue that there is a short, and this is where you get like really nitpicky with the science of things, because you could initially say, sure, because still technically petting this dog is aversive until that's been further desensitized, right? It is him going into a state of learned helplessness initially, but then as he realizes that it's not actually aversive, that goes away, right? You could rebuild that positive association with that thing, and the short-term ramifications are really not that big of a deal in the long run. Where if I was putting him into a state where I was grabbing his paw, cutting the nail too short, and doing that over and over and over again, and there was no escape from it, that is learned helplessness, because forever he's tolerating something that is painful, that is truly aversive, that will never become not aversive. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
And that is obviously not what you want, right?
Yeah.
So whatever. So this is a video that I used to kind of highlight that. Like I said, I picked this one first here because, one, it's the first video on our TikTok. It's pinned to the top, obviously. And two, I think it highlights a lot of the issue that we're going to see moving forward, which is that this dog doesn't like being pet, so we should just never pet the dog, right? And it's okay that something as simple as you petting the dog triggers such an aggressive response. People are too on the side of the dog with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, how else are you supposed to get them into a better spot if you have to have to break it down?
Well,
at some
the
point.
only alternative is what people refer to as counter conditioning, right? Or like slow desensitization, which is you find the dog's threshold, because his threshold to start biting is probably somewhere between me going towards him and me actually touching him.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the threshold is somewhere on that line.
Yeah.
So we figure out where the threshold is. Let's say it's when I get halfway to him with my hand, right? That is the threshold where he starts reacting. I would go just before that and repeatedly do that while conditioning that with a positive association, and then stretching that threshold out until eventually I can get all the way to petting the dog. Here's the problem with that. Problem number one, I have never in my life seen somebody with a dog as intense as a lot of the dogs that we work with successfully do that. I don't believe it's possible to really get that good with your classical conditioning where you could do that. With some minor things, I'm sure you could, right? But with a lot of serious behavioral issues, there ain't no fucking way. And two, it still caters to the emotion of the dog has started liking it, which is why the dog is not biting anymore. But you've not addressed what, they say, address the root of the problem. The root of the problem to me is from the human standpoint. When the dog doesn't like something, the dog resorts to aggression.
Yeah.
Right? That is setting yourself up for such failure, it's not even funny. Because, okay, yeah, you may have solved it in this moment because you've taught the dog to like or tolerate that, right? And you've addressed the root of the cause of that exact incident. But what happens when in the future the dog experiences something that it doesn't like again? And because you've not addressed the actual root of the problem, which is when they don't like something, they act out in this manner. You run back into the exact same situation, and then you have a liability on your hands still because you've never taught the dog when you don't like something, you still cannot do this.
Yeah.
Right? That is the biggest problem with it, and that's why I hate when people push you haven't addressed the root of the problem and the counter conditioning and this and that, because you're just still catering around the dog.
Yeah.
You are learning to live completely around the dog, right?
Sure.
All right, so here's the next one here. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, sorry. Technical errors.
Technical errors. What the heck, Josh?
Yeah, I had it recording me in super slow-mo.
Super slow-mo.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, I don't think we need that. Okay, there we
All right, you ready?
go. Ready.
All right, so here's next one. So this is Doppler. Doppler was a very, very aggressive dog that Michelle worked with in one-on-ones, I think about 2 years ago, right? Same deal, right? S-Thor, we are still in touch with this owner. The dog is still crushing it. You could read the owner's review online because a lot of people in here are like, that dog is not fixed. They're never going to blah, 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 right?
Of course.
Let's watch this video. People watch this part right here, which is like 3 sessions into things or something, and they look at it, that dog is so stressed and shut down and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, is that dog totally thrilled to work? No. Right? But is he objectively, not even subjectively, objectively 100 million times looser than he was in the first video?
100%.
Yeah. So just go away.
Yeah.
Just go away. So there's Doppler. Doppler had a fantastic transformation. We continued to work with him over the course of that year that he did the training with us, just to keep making sure things were on the same track, right, or the right track with things, just making sure that obviously as we were progressing through stuff, they didn't let anything slip on their end. They were managing him effectively, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like, they look at that and they're just like, you could never trust that dog ever again. That dog's going to seriously hurt somebody at this point. Okay, so I tell everybody this all the time. And this kind of gets into, again, these next couple of videos that we're going to get into with stuff like this. A piece of the puzzle when you're rehabilitating any dog that you're working with is making sure that you have effective management in place by understanding what the dog's triggers are, right? Helping to increase the threshold as much as possible, whether it's Thor or whether it's Doppler here, right? In Thor's case with the touching, we figured out what his threshold is. We've helped him really, really stretch that threshold out so that it's not such a hairline of like you just touch him and he fucking explodes.
Yeah.
Maybe if you push him enough, he might still explode, obviously. Yeah. But we've made it a little safer where, like, an emergency situation, if you have like a family member that comes over, or if you're out and about with him and somebody like reaches their hand out, you know, that like they're not going to get it taken off right off the rip. But we still know what his thresholds are. Yeah. We still advocate appropriately for him, and we still have strict rules for how we introduce him to new people or new dogs so we can keep them safe, right? So make the dog a little bit better, given their genetics, right? Make sure that we increase their threshold to things as much as we can to make them a little bit safer, and then we put in place management everywhere else in order to keep everybody safe.
Exactly.
Right? That is the recipe when it comes to rehabbing any sort of aggressive dog. Yeah. And yes, we will never paint a picture that these dogs are just going to be safe under any circumstances. That's not the case, right? But we could help them be much, 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 much safer than they currently are.
Yeah.
And then we see how things play out. And if we put in place the right management, you should be able to mitigate virtually all bad situations that could possibly happen.
Yeah.
Right?
And like you said, it's never about fixing.
It's not about fixing.
You can't fix the dog.
It's about learning what the dog needs from you in order to thrive.
Yep.
That's it. That's what I tell everybody. That is rehabilitation. It's not fixing the dog. It's learning who the dog is at their core and learning what they need from their handler in order to thrive and be the best version of their self that they could be.
Yep.
Okay, moving on here. Last pinned one. So this is Ruger here. Ruger did one-on-ones, another very aggressive dog towards people that we worked with. Very fearful, right? Very fear-aggressive with his responses. And this was him learning how to socialize with other dogs. This was a clip from the very first time that I socialized him with other dogs to, you know, like I think a week into us doing it or something like that, and helping him to learn to be better with other dogs. So let's watch this one. So, looks like a pretty happy dog to me.
I'd say
Running, playing, chilling. Now you got this friggin' idiot right here. I would love to know the level of education these trainers have. Right? Like, just shut up. Like sometimes it gets so hard in these situations. Michelle made a hilarious video this morning that we'll play also, just responding to some of the comments in one of the recent videos. That was just so funny because it's like sometimes it gets so hard to like just read these comments from people and just be like, just stop. Like you have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, Ruger, in case anybody cares to know, right? Ruger has boarded. Like, how long ago was this video? 2022, right? It's been almost 2 years. In a month, it'll be 2 years.
Yep.
Right. Ruger has boarded with us for probably like in total 3 months over the course of those 2 years, right? And every single time when he comes here, he's happy to come here and he plays and socializes with other dogs and has a great time.
Yep.
Right? So, like, the proof is in the pudding. It worked. Regardless of your opinion on it, it worked. Because everybody said the same thing. Like, if you look at the comments on this one, I think there was a bunch. Yeah. That dog doesn't look happy, relaxed play to me. It looks like that could go very wrong very quickly. Like, okay, right? Like, what else?
What's considered like good looking play then? Because that was like
people don't know is the problem, right? Mm-hmm. Well, actually, there's a bunch of good comments on this. That's good. There was a bunch of people though that were in this like, oh, you're flooding the dog. You're shutting the dog down. It's like same concept as before. This is the exact same situation as what we just talked about with the last couple dogs, which is the perceived aversion, right? There is nothing inherently aversive about a dog sniffing another dog, right? But when that dog has a fear that may, and this happens all the time in socialization, right? And there's another great example of it, right? Nothing inherently aversive about being sniffed by another dog. But if that dog in the past has had sniffing lead to them being attacked by another dog, right? Or like severely dominated by another dog or something like that, you will classically condition the response of any dog coming near you, predicting that single thing, right? So as we work through these things, we expose them to the situation. As you saw, he was very uncomfortable with being sniffed initially, super stiff, twitching every time a dog would like touch him and stuff like that, right? But through repetition, as he realized that did not turn into the thing that he thought it was going to turn into, he was able to loosen up and realize and be desensitized to the fact that being sniffed is not aversive. And in this case, without the need of any positive reinforcement, he was able to learn to open up and thrive through that, right? That is how we work through virtually 100% of major behavioral issues like aggression with dogs. Yeah. Right? So here's our next one. This is from Michelle, Bridget, Seamus, and Senny's podcast. This is dog breeder red flags.
With breeders, basic red flags versus green flags. One, they should have a contract. If they don't have a contract when you're purchasing a dog from them, that's a red flag.
And that's including the shelters too. Like you should have a contract in a shelter.
They should do health testing. There's a database that documents all of the health testing where you can look for your breeder's kennel and actually see the results and see all of it. Obviously, the people should be willing to talk to you and answer any questions you have. They should be willing to allow you to connect with other people that have gotten their puppies in the past and not be weird about that. So like there's stuff like that that's put into place that shows you that they truly care about their dogs, and their actual goal with breeding is to preserve the good parts of that dog breed and not to just pump them out as quick as possible and make as much money as they possibly can. And if they're willing to give you 2 puppies at the same time, don't go there.
Or they'll guilt trip you and be like, man, this dog's gonna be really lonely without its sibling.
And if they're in a rush to get rid of the dog, that's problematic. With breed,
strong statements on good breeding, right? So many people get too hung up on the like adopt don't shop thing, right? Like all breeders are terrible and this and that. That is not the case, right? A lot of times, getting back to the common theme here of like dogs, like all these aggressive dogs we see, if you could play out most situations that may have happened to these dogs that turned them into aggressive monsters, right? And you could play that out with 999 dogs or 1,000 dogs, and 999 of those 1,000 dogs you play those situations out with will not become aggressive because of those experiences. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Do I have to say that again?
They're not just a product of their environment.
Well, the environment with that dog did cause them to go from this to this. But the problem was the deeper issue was not the thing that happened to them, because with most dogs, if that thing happened to them, they would not become aggressive monsters. Yeah. Right? Yeah. The problem is their genetics were so unsound that individual moment that with 999 out of 1,000 dogs would not be that big of a deal was such a traumatic big deal to that dog that it caused them to become that way. Right? So when you look at getting a dog, this is why we actually stand pretty firmly behind. If you want a very particular type of dog, like a lot of people want a German Shepherd, right? Or a Doberman or things like that. Sure, if you find a good stable one at a rescue, like Merry Christmas, I'm happy for you, right? But if you want a sound genetic dog, you go to a responsible breeder for that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's not that rescues are bad and that those dogs are just so, they've had such horrible upbringings and that's what caused them to be that way. It's that you know nothing about the history of that individual dog from a genetic standpoint of what caused them to be the way that they are.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So we are not anti-breeder at all. And a lot of people give a shit over that. Like one of the comments on this was like red flag of breeders, that they're breeders, And it's like, they're trying to preserve the integrity of a breed, and if they're doing it responsible and following the rules that they outlined in that, they should be putting out quality dogs that are going to make great family pets for people because they have sound genetics. They're healthy dogs, right? And they're going to do their part in making sure that if there's not a healthy one, like if they're like pumping out a litter, they've bred 2 dogs together, and that litter winds up being a mess of genetics, they're never going to breed those 2 dogs together ever again. They take them out of their breeding pool, right? So they're preserving the integrity of the dogs, and in many cases, the dogs that are in shelters, they're kind of in the, here, we're going to jump around here. We're going to get into this balance training one because it highlights exactly the problem here, right?
I was at a shelter recently, and they're like, we never recommend balance training. And when dogs come back after balance training, they're 10 times worse.
No. What happened was you adopted out a dog with such severe behavioral issues that positive-only training was going to do shit. So the owners were like, we want to try to keep this dog. Let's do training that is probably going to give us the best bet. So they go to balance training, and then guess what? You can't fix a bad temperament in a dog. So likely what ended up happening is it didn't get them to the level they needed to be for it to be a safe or a good lifestyle fit for them. So they returned the dog. It wasn't the balance training that caused that. It was the dog in and of itself being the way it was. And the owners were trying to just give it the best shot they possibly could. But now the rescue could look at that and be like, Pumpkin was never like this before she left. And now she's terrible and they returned her.
Because no positive only dogs ever come back either.
Exactly.
I was at a shelter recently.
So exactly what they're trying to imply there is that couple things. One, these shelters are consistently trying to push out problematic dogs. I see it all the time when you read between the lines on a lot of the like write-ups and stuff that they have, where it's like they like cutesy their way around serious behavioral issues, right? Like doesn't play nice with toys, right? Means that this dog may be a serious resource guarder, and like we look at that and it's like, oh, a lot of people that like haven't experienced true behavioral issues are like, oh, my dog kind of resource guarded a little bit, you know, but they've never experienced a dog that when they resource guard, they actually can seriously hurt somebody. Yeah. Right? Or in worst cases, literally kill somebody over stuff like that. Right? So these people adopt these dogs. They're unsuspecting to the issue. They're like, oh my God, like, like I got this dog. I hear all the time, right? We adopted this dog. This dog was an absolute disaster, right? I was basically lied to about the dog's behavioral issues. So let me try training. And they try the training thinking they're going to fix the dog, right? And unsuspectingly, they realize you're not actually going to fix the dog. In actuality, this dog will always, to some extent, be this way, but you could learn to, like I said, increase their threshold to things and, set up your environment for success to help them thrive, obviously. Yeah. But when people go adopt a dog from a shelter, they're not looking for a project. Once they realize how much work is going to go into keeping and owning that dog, there are many people that are just going to kind of back out and wash their hands of it. And that is not to say the balanced dog training didn't work, or the force-free dog training didn't work, or the dog was like unsavable or anything like that, or it made it worse, right? It's just to say that this dog was a problem to begin with, and they tried their shot at it, realized that this dog was still going to be a disaster with things, and then the dog gets returned to the shelter, and then in many cases, the shelter then will blame the training that they did, or they'll blame the owner, as opposed to just looking at, this is a really horrible candidate of a dog that shouldn't be getting adopted out. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And I never really thought about that, the little flavor text that they use to kind of schmooze over the problems the dog has. Like, that is a big issue.
Bro, did we talk about the one that a local shelter put out? There was, I wish I had it. I wonder if Paige can send me this. I'm going to text her right now, and I hope we get this in the next 3 minutes.
Oh, God.
Hold on.
help us page.
Okay, this is hilarious. I feel like she's usually quick with her responses, so I feel like I'm going to get this in time because it's the best example of that, but way funnier.
Yeah.
It's way funnier.
And when there's tea, Paige is on it.
Yeah. She likes the tea.
She likes the tea.
But yeah, no, the flavor text is very real. Like if you go through, like we'll have to do it one day where we go on a couple of shelters' websites and just like read the bios on the dogs,
God.
you know? Because like you could read between the lines and like my mother-in-law has been looking for a dog for the past like 2 years. She wants to get another dog. She's not like fully committed to it, which is why it hasn't happened yet. But she'll like send us dogs that she's finding on like Pet Finder, or, like the local county shelter, like in her area and stuff. And I'll look at it and I'll read the bio and I'll be like, steer so clear away from that dog. Like, that is not what you want.
Run away.
Okay, so getting into this next one. This is laying out all the options.
It's on an individual basis. Like we've had clients put their dogs down for things that in my opinion are really nothing things, but in their mind it was just way too much risk for them. It's my job to give you all of the options. So if this dog's owner called me, I would lay out on the table, this is all your options on what they could look like. You could try training. We may be able to get to X point with it. Success rate is this. This is what could possibly happen if you screw up and don't do the things that I tell you to do. Euthanasia is an option, obviously. The dog's already old. How much money do you want to invest in things? Stuff like that. In my opinion, rehoming aggressive dogs is not on the table. I think it's a massive, just passive liability then at that point. But if you are going to attempt to do that, I always tell everybody it's got to be to somebody that the dog already knows. And my reasoning for that is because let's say they had an Uncle Charlie that has met this dog 127 times before. He's already seen this dog at its worst. He knows exactly what he's getting into. There's a little bit more of an emotional investment into it from his end then at that point. So I think the risk is a little bit lower in those situations. But I just lay the options out for them. And I'm never going to tell you, yeah, you got to put your dog down or you should put your dog down. But I'll lay them out. It's an option on the table. And I don't think it makes you a bad person if you choose to do it.
Okay, so this was when we were in Toronto. This is a husky I worked with that was a new board and train that the facility had gotten in.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, do you want to use this dog to show like what you would do with a dog like this initially?
Yeah.
The dog was absolutely awful. It was like a 9-year-old husky. The dog had like hospitalized like its owners and friends and stuff like that like 6 or 7 times. Like not like trying to kill them, but like resource guarding stuff, like, you know, very touch sensitive stuff like that. And every time it would bite, it bit hard and would, you know, stitches, stuff like that, right? So genetically messed up. Like in the videos, you'll see one of the ones that I post. Like you could just see the dog just like the most violent trembling that you've ever seen in your life. And this was like this dog's on a flat collar. Like this, like there was no like I literally just was touching the dog. I was doing what I described in the other cases, and because the dog was so averse to it in that moment, it was just so much. It just couldn't handle it. Yeah. Right. So horrible genetics. Getting back to what caused this issue. And, you know, somebody had asked me, they were like, you know, like, what do you tell owners in these situations? You know, like, cause like a dog like this is not going to become this like amazing family dog. So that's where I got into like what we do and how we've always approached these situations is I look at the situation, I try to give it my best assessment of how far do I think this dog can get. And then I lay out the options on the table for people of this is what success could look like for you. Here are the risks involved in you trying whatever training program that we have. Like if you slip up, this is what could possibly happen, right? Because everybody has a different risk tolerance for things. I discuss if I think that, you know, with aggressive dogs, I think a euthanasia is always a conversation that should just be on the back burner, right? And somebody said like in the comments on Instagram, I think like, oh yeah, like every single person knows euthanasia is an option. So I don't even understand why you're saying it or something like that. It's like, well, like a lot of people I think have been so like brainwashed by rescues and stuff like that, that to them, they have so much shame attached to behavioral euthanasia that they could never in a million years think like, I could never do that. We don't give up on dogs in this household, et cetera, et cetera. But because it's like a delusion almost, like it's coming from this place of not sound logic, but of emotion that we would never do that. Yeah. That some of them just need permission almost that, hey, it is an option. You know what I mean? Like if you don't want to do it, that's fine. If your risk tolerance to all of this and you feel you can, you know, be successful and manage things and stuff like that, like I'm not going to tell you have to do it. Oh yeah. But like don't negate it as like a potential option that is on the table with dogs like this. Like I said, like there have been so many people I've seen I can think of a couple clients in particular who have had dangerous dogs, right? And they did we're not going to put this dog down, right? We're going to manage this dog. We're going to keep everybody safe. And they did it, right? They live out freaking 8 years with this dog, however long. And they learn to live around the dog to some extent. And they manage the dog. They don't have the dog around friends and family. And they do it, right?
Yeah.
And then the dog dies of like natural causes, right? And there's people I know, I won't name them, but that I know that have been in that situation before that have implied that once that dog finally passed away, it was the biggest sigh of relief they could have ever had.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that like they loved the dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like just that burden that they almost were like subconscious. They weren't even aware of it. You know what I mean? That was just hanging over them at all times for years and years and years. Once that is finally lifted, right? Like you realize that in many of those cases, it's like, was that worth it?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, was that worth it? Like how much work and stress I put on myself, you know? Was that really worth it? Or did I just take 5 years of my life and just, I could have had a dog. This is where you get into the real crazy side of the conversation. I could have had a dog that like was a great dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this, like no bad dogs thing. Like fuck that, right? Like this is a bad dog, and that's not me saying like, oh my god, like there's nothing that could have caused it or whatever. But just like genetically, it's not a good dog.
Yeah.
I think so sometimes when people look at like bad, they think like malicious. You know what I mean? No, it's just this is not a good dog. It's no different than if I hired somebody to detail my car, right? Like there's people that are going to do it good and there's people that are going to do it bad. And if they're doing it bad, it doesn't mean that it's like malicious or they're terrible people or anything like that, but it's just kind of a bad job, right? Like these are not good genetics. They're bad genetics that this dog has, right?
Yeah.
So you could have had a objectively good dog for that whole time that you could have enjoyed.
Yeah.
And you could have incorporated into your family more. And you could have went on adventures without being constantly stressed out when you were out and about on those adventures.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I also understand the emotional attachment we get to animals and we get to dogs where it's like, yeah, to some people, like all that stress was worth it. You know what I mean? It's like they loved the dog so much that it was worth it. And that's fine. Like I can't take that away from you, obviously. But in many cases, I don't think people are honest with themselves enough about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To truly know, you know?
Yeah. And I just feel like it's made to be so taboo, you know, like you're such a, you know, there's a lot of the dog community that will
it's
try to make
shunned.
you feel like shit.
But the thing is, with 99% of, let's say trainers, 99% of trainers do not look down on it. You know what I mean? It really is the rescue world and the general population.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to worry about trainers looking down on you for that. You have to worry about your cousin looking down on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like your best friend looking down on you because they just can't put themselves in your shoes enough to understand how horrible of a situation you were in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
So crazy, right?
It is.
So whatever. So keeping it going here. We won't watch this is a clip just from the socialization from the last episode. If you guys haven't watched that last episode we did on socialization, revisit that. I think we dropped some gems for people.
I think so too.
All right, let's see what this is. So this is this dog, right? This is where we further talked about if you want to be successful with this dog, because this dog was aggressive towards its owners. This is the husky still, right? If you want to be successful with this dog, why it is so challenging in order to do that.
I think owner aggression success rate is very low. It's so hard to manage in the house, right? Unless you're totally keeping the dog isolated from the family. I think in order to shift a really toxic relationship where the dog is biting and attacking you, and not just that, but seriously, it requires you to literally turn into a completely different person. You have to transform into like the dog sees you as like not the same human being they saw before, which could be really challenging to do. So usually when we work with these cases, One, I'm generally pretty upfront with people about that prior to them signing up, especially dealing with an older dog. Like, how much of a financial commitment do you want into the dog that's older at this point, and your success rate is going to be not as high as it could be. And then from there, usually it requires figuring out how much management can we implement in order to avoid a lot of the problems that you're having, and where can we have the biggest return on our time as far as if we get these two things under control, it makes their life with this dog 10 times easier. I think
So just further discussing the needing to become a different person, right? Unless you from day one can hit the ground running and truly be self-aware enough to know where you have created problems, you will never get past owner-related issues.
Yeah.
You know? I did a phone consult with somebody maybe yesterday or the day before. I don't remember which one. I think it was yesterday. And it was somebody that has done some training elsewhere, and they called because the dog had a barking problem. They said, this dog is just barking 24/7. It never shuts up, right? It gets so overstimulated all the time. We just don't know what to do. And she was like, I don't understand how you're going to fix this problem without coming to my house and stopping the barking in my house. And I was trying to articulate to her, you are looking at this as a symptom, right? You are looking at the symptom, which is barking, right? And you are saying the barking, the symptom needs to be stopped. And what I'm telling you is that there are bigger issues. Yeah. Why does this dog feel like it could demand stuff from you constantly? Why does this dog get so overstimulated in the first place, right? Yeah. Why, you know, where are the areas where you don't have adequate control over this dog in other scenarios where it's completely aroused? And she just kept going back to, I'm really trying to understand what you're saying, but can you give me like an exact example of something we might be doing that's causing, like there was just like, she couldn't be self-aware enough to get to the bottom of the issue, you know? And the conversation really kind of went nowhere, in my opinion, you know? You know, those are the kinds of people where, like, I wish them the best of luck. She didn't say she was not a bad person by any means, but she just couldn't connect the dots. She wasn't at a stage, it didn't feel like, where she was in tune enough with, you are partly the problem here, right? Yep. And particularly, let's say this woman just had a dog that was, like, just barking. You know what I mean? Let's say that woman had a dog that was like attacking her or attacking her friends and family. That is a situation where from that phone call, I would get all the information I need of, your success rate is going to be near zero with this. And the risk, I talked about the risk if you screw up, is going to be so high. That is a client likely I wouldn't even take on in the first place.
Yeah.
All right, moving on here.
Okay.
So back to the husky. This is where you're really going to see the trembling with this dog.
Doing it. Do you mean like literally just with any dog, or with this dog specifically? Just doing it. So it's one of those things where you really got to trust your safety protocols to your best of your abilities. Like right now, you'll notice I'm holding the collar so that I can prevent the dog from really turning around and snapping at my hand too much. Because really, the only time you're going to get bit by a Baskerville is if your fingers go in it. So you'll notice I keep a fairly closed hand, like my fingers aren't out. And then on top of that, if they really press down hard, when we have new board...
Then you
doing it. Do you mean like literally just with any dog, or with this dog specifically? Just doing it. So it's one of those things where you really got to trust your safety protocols to your best of your abilities. Like right now, you'll notice I'm holding the collar so that I can prevent the dog from really turning around and snapping at my hand too much. Because really, the only time you're going to get bit by a Baskerville is if your fingers go in it. So you'll notice I keep a fairly closed hand, like my fingers aren't out. And then on top of that, if they really press down hard enough where they can compress that muzzle, you can get a bite that way, obviously. Right now, since I don't have bite gloves, I'm not going to let this dog really compress down enough on my hands where I would be able to get bit. So I'm pretty comfortable and confident because of that. And you got to test kind of all over with stuff, because you'll notice certain spots are more sensitive than others. Obviously, the back for a little bit was okay, but then when I started moving to the chest, you see obviously how much the dog tenses up with it. So things like that, obviously, we want to make sure we're kind of starting to get past with this. Doing it.
Okay, so we were talking about safety protocols. One of the trainers at the seminar asked me, like, how do you feel? Because this dog was, like, really going at me, like, when we first started it.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, like, how do you feel comfortable doing that with all of these dogs? You know, like, isn't it scary? To the answer is, like, yeah, initially it can be, right? But the more confident you are in your safety protocols that you have at hand and your ability to protect yourself and your ability to read forward as many situations as possible and predict them and set up good routines or contingencies of what you're going to do if A, B, C, or D happens, you overcome that and you become confident in just doing the work that you need to do. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the one that really stirred the pot, right? And this thing so check this out first. This video has only 60,000 views right now.
Yeah.
Look at the comment count on it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Then you should.
Whoa.
2,409 comments.
Jesus.
Okay, let's watch this. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Never get to the point where you care more about a dog than a person.
Yeah.
Let alone children.
Which unfortunately a lot of people are that way.
Well, they
A lot of
hold
dogs.
animals and dogs on the same moral level as humans. And yes, animals deserve to be treated with respect and kindness and love and all of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to a matter of safety, they don't take priority over humans. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
And
Oh, boy.
Such a controversial take. Such a controversial take that if your dog is posing a safety threat to people and you're picking your dog over the people, there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
And that just
There's something wrong with you.
exploded the internet. Exploded the internet with people just, dogs feel the same feelings we do, so why shouldn't they? No, they don't. They'll love more unconditionally than any human ever could. My
God.
dog is before any stranger.
They got 1,000
My
likes.
dog comes before any stranger, especially ones with bad haircuts. So I hope you stay safe. I don't even understand what these people are saying, right?
No.
There was some comments on here that were so ridiculous. Like some of the ones on Instagram. I wonder if Paige sent me that fucking thing also.
Perfect.
We'll read that in a second. But some of the ones on Instagram were like, yeah, okay.
Dude.
Yeah. My dogs take 100% take first place before any person. That includes my husband. Sorry, not sorry. He knows that. And I replied back, I said, this is an honest statement. So that means you would save your dogs instead of your husband in an emergency situation where life or death was on the line. And they said, yeah, it's not fucked up. He has 2 hands and 2 legs. Are you kidding me?
David.
Like, are you at your, like,
You know, I was already I'm low on the faith in humanity, and then you're just hitting me with this one today.
are you actually kidding me? You know what I mean? Like,
It's crazy.
yeah. And here's the other one that killed me too. I mean, there's 8 million of them, obviously. Like, we
Yeah.
were having fun talking about these yesterday. Another one was like, I'm dead serious. I would literally die for my dogs. To which I said, no, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. Like, listen, I'm sorry. And these are, we can play the hypothetical game all day long, right?
Yeah.
But, like, there are real circumstances where, like, you know, like, people that, like, when New Orleans happened or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, where you have to choose, right? Like, people have
Yeah.
been in this situation before, right?
Yeah.
Where you have to choose. Like, you are either going to get into this lifeboat, right? Or your freaking dog is going to get into this lifeboat. You're absolutely not going to pick your dog.
Yeah.
You're not. You just won't.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
do.
I just, like,
Yeah.
it actually baffles me.
Yeah. Right there. There's the same exact comment. I'd 100% say my dog over Minnie.
Yeah.
520
Yeah.
likes on it.
Yeah. And then everybody just had to, like, go the fucking bangs comment. You know? Like, it's so funny that people just, like, get so mad that they're like, you know, let me just try to insult you as much as possible.
Okay, hold on. Go back up. This motherfucker. One more. A little more. I'd go Genghis Khan on the world right now in order to protect my dog. Genghis Khan killed 10% of the population.
I don't know much about Genghis Khan.
That's what he did. He killed 10% of humanity when he was in the reign. Are you kidding me?
Oh my God. Yeah. Bro, like, and the other thing too is like, everybody's just missing the point. Nobody is questioning if you love your dog, right?
No.
Nobody is questioning that. All we're saying, and what we're specifically talking about, is you cannot shoot, like, if your dog is posing a safety risk to other people,
Yeah.
right? And you are picking your dog, right? Because you want to be irresponsible, that there is something wrong. I'm going to play Michelle's fucking thing that she posted because it was hilarious.
Okay. You know, it's so funny. Like, Michelle just is always saying the knowledge that people need to hear, and they just go crazy
Are
every
you ready
time.
for this?
Yeah.
It's funny. I was laughing this morning.
Okay.
They cut a clip from our most recent podcast where I'm talking about when it comes to safety, the priority is not the dog. The priority is the safety of, like, humans, especially children. And both on Instagram and TikTok, it's gone absolutely embarrassingly viral because people are, I think, dumb. I literally say in the clip that animals deserve to be treated with kindness and respect and love, but in the context of safety, they do not take priority over humans. And people are stupid because nobody has any sort of, like, comprehension skills anymore. So you can't listen to a full clip and be able to process and comprehend what's being said, because I think you're just dumb. So you're saying that I would just, like, let a random stranger, like, murder my dog and do nothing about it? Like, how? Oh no. I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with that. This has to do with, like, dangerous dogs being prioritized over humans and children. And if you're dumb and you didn't have the comprehension skills to get that, you're dumb. And then if you actually had the ability to comprehend what I'm saying and then somehow still disagree with it and think that your dangerous dog is more important than a stranger, yes, a stranger, you don't have to know them or care about them or love them to understand that a stranger's safety trumps you being irresponsible with your idiotic, dangerous dog. Oh no. It is extremely alarming to me that what I said in that clip has become this controversial. Like, it's really scary. It is truly, truly scary about the state of either people's intelligence or the state of the culture surrounding dogs, specifically dangerous ones. Like, some of these comments, y'all are... I'm scared to go outside. And they always insult my hair. People hate my bangs. They hate my bangs. When I had colored hair, they hated the colors. You don't have haircuts like this and then care about what people say about your hair. Like, I don't... Oh, no.
Christ.
Dude, I was cracking up watching that this morning. I think she hit the nail completely on the head, though. Like, it's insane how people just, like, and I think in many of these cases, it's people that are looking at it and they're just like, as soon as they hear, like, humans have to take precedence over dogs, they tune everything else out.
Literally.
You know what I mean? It's like everything else is tuned out. But it's not really that controversial of a statement. It shouldn't be that controversial of a statement, right?
That's my baby.
Yeah, and it's funny. We had like all these people like stitch the video, right?
Oh yeah.
So you've got like, here we go, mentions and tags. Like let's look at some of these.
You should never get to the point.
The list of motherfuckers that I'd put ahead of my dogs is shorter than Yosemite Sam's temper. Humans suck. Like, there's fucking a handful of people on this fucking planet that I give a shit about. The rest of them, fuck those people. I'll take my dogs over 99.999999999 infinity of the people on this fucking planet. Fuck that shit. Dogs are awesome and people suck. Like, just watch fucking YouTube or fucking this app or whatever any day of the week, and you'll see dogs are awesome and people suck.
Bro,
People suck.
hilarious. Let's look at this one.
Oh my god.
And you should never hear more about it.
I guess we gotta sort out the people that we trust some way or another, right? Okay. In all seriousness, I get what she's saying, you know, because I do come from that kind of a family where it's like if a dog gets enough, you know, attacky on the kids and stuff like that, we, you know, wow, very rural existence, you know what I mean? All right, I'm not saying I do.
Enough attacky on the kids, bro. If your dog is, but first off, getting back to the cutesy way of saying it,
Yeah.
guys, I know I've spoken with people on the phone before who have had children that have had life-altering injuries because their dogs bit or attacked them.
Yeah. Attack.
It's not getting a little too bitey, right? There are dogs out there that are bad dogs that will seriously hurt and impact. Listen, guys, this is where you get into, again, like the real, like, harsh truth of stuff, too. Dogs live for what? 10 to 14 years, right? How long is a child going to live for? Maybe 90 years. And you're saying that your dog takes precedence over anybody else's child?
Right.
That could have their life altered forever because of what your dog might do to them. Fucked up.
In the suburban existence I have now, but I would probably not own that dog anymore, right?
Oh, so you're agreeing with us.
But we need to kind of compartmentalize this, right? My dog will be saved far sooner than any other human, providing they are not my children or my wife. You know, I might say that if it's on par with my friend, I don't know.
Again, you get back to an emergency situation. Let's say you're in New Orleans. Everything just got flooded. Helicopter comes. Last one that's going to be there. It's you, your wife, your kids, your dog, and 2 of your best friends, right? There's only 1 slot left on that. You're not getting out of there any other time. You're saying you'd say, hey, friends, go fuck yourself. It's not. Maybe you're that kind of person. Listen, I don't know. I don't think that would happen.
Yeah.
My cousins, some cousins might be over my dog. Some cousins might be over my dog. But, yeah, you know, as one guy that I saw stitch this, you know, really a lot of men, that's the only unconditional love that a lot of us get. Everything else is dependent on whether we shut up for them or
Man,
you know.
So you got the Trumpers mad at you.
work and all that
We were
stuff,
talking about this yesterday. So Michelle was like, you know, like, I think the reason why everybody like gives her so much shit is because like the haircut and the colors and all that kind of stuff, like people that like have those types of haircuts and like color their hair like that and like from a visual like look would be like, this is the most fucking like you know, obnoxiously leftist annoying human being on the planet. But then when she talks,
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
not
like
close.
polar opposite from it. So it's like
Yeah.
a walking contradiction.
Yeah. They don't know what
And
to
I
do.
think it confuses people.
Yeah, they're very confused. Seems to be.
Hilarious. What was that? I think there was one more thing I wanted to. What was I going to say?
Oh my God! It's all these white guys.
Yeah. Big orange Brad.
You should never get to the point where a dog than a person.
Yeah.
I would commit war crimes for you. I would nuke entire villages for you.
Jesus.
They shouldn't have been talking shit.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know, man. It's ridiculous. You know what the other thing, too, was there was some people commenting on it. Like it is like, it's all these like guys like this that are the ones commenting on it, right? And they're like y'all, like, y'all are the same people that chose the bear over the man or something like that, right? Like a bunch of them were commenting that. Yeah. But you know how like in that, like when that whole like bear versus man thing was going on, you know, everybody was like, you're missing the bigger point of it. Like the bigger point of it is we're highlighting that there are some men out there that are horrible, that will do some absolutely horrendous, horrible things in those circumstances. It's now the same thing, just reversed, right? You're missing the complete point that there are some dogs out there that can seriously cause life-threatening or life-altering like atrocities to people if you are irresponsible and you are choosing your dog that is a dangerous dog over other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's the same exact situation. Yeah. Crazy.
Oy.
So that's what we got today.
Oh, what?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Pages.
All right, here we go. Hilarious. All right. You ready for this?
Yeah. Give it to me. Oh, no.
I can't even believe they posted this. Warren hates testicles. Literally. He doesn't have them. His friends at the rescue don't have them. And he doesn't want them in his home. We caught him looking for his new family at the local OBGYN office. He was ready to go home with a woman who was pregnant with her third daughter until he learned how she got that way. He loves to play with balls, but will bite anyone who has them attached. If you are a wonderful woman-only household, Warren is your guy.
That's real?
It's real.
What the fuck? What? Oh my God.
It's hilarious.
By any balls that are attached. Holy shit.
Bro.
That dog.
Yeah. Now, that one may have been them just trying to, like, do a funny, you know? But, like, still, I mean, this dog is obviously aggressive towards men, right?
Yeah.
Like
human aggressive.
He is obviously aggressive towards men, which is a problem. But, like, that's probably not the best example of one where they're, like, trying to hide stuff through, like, the cutesy comments.
Yeah.
You know? But
they try to downplay it.
But they kind of downplayed it by making it funny. So like a woman-only household will read that and be like, "Oh, ha 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 ha." There's actually one other one I'm going to try to find real quick to read that was a better example of that. Let me see if I can get it. Hold, please.
Watch your balls, Scott. He might get you. It's just, I don't know. It's just so weird.
Yeah. Okay, here's one.
Okay.
This was a dog that I saw a couple of people reposting around in the Cleveland area.
Okay.
That I read, and I immediately was like, because it was like an urgent thing. Like he was at the shelter for like 538 days and stuff. So they said, Chester has worked through all the physical and so much of even emotional tolls that he had. Chester still may not want to share his toys if he doesn't trust you, and when he's ready, he will bring them up to you. Meaning, if you try to approach this dog when he has toys, you're probably going to get bit. Chester does good with other dogs in small doses, but so much was taken away from him that he needs to be the only pet in the home, meaning he's socialized before, but he's attacked other dogs. Probably. Right? I'm reading between the lines here.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is why you should not trust this dog with another dog in your house.
No.
Right? He is about 5 years old and loves his blankets. He is obsessed with treats and enjoys going on walks. Chester would do well with an experienced dog owner and a home without very young children and a fenced-in yard, meaning this is a very challenging dog. This dog is aggressive towards young children, and the dog needs a fenced-in yard because he's probably going to try to escape and maybe do something bad when he escapes. He loves to army crawl in the grass, playing in water, and loves basking in the sun. So we've highlighted in that like 5 potential really serious problems with this dog.
Problems, yeah.
And why do you think the dog has been in the shelter for almost 600 days?
He's probably shown quite a few.
Probably not the best adoptable candidate.
No.
Right? So that's what I mean about how they try to kind of nice them over. And this gets back to this dog would get adopted to somebody, right? Thinking, oh, I've had dogs before that don't play well with toys. Because that's always how it happens. When you advertise, oh, yeah, we have this aggressive dog up for adoption, people go, oh, yeah, my last dog was aggressive. And actually, their last dog just kind of barked at people when they came in the house, right? Then they get this dog, and this dog is actually trying to attack people. And they're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa there, buddy.
Oops.
Maybe I should try some training. They try some training. The owner was only half committed to it. It didn't work. The dog gets returned. And then just due to the nature of how behavioral issues compound over time, right? The dog goes back, seems worse. They correlate it to the training they did instead of just the fact that the dog went into this house and rehearsed all these bad behaviors for a year or whatever it was. And then the dog goes back and is worse. You know what I mean? That's like how it works. But it all stems from these rescues trying to push out dogs like this that are just probably not good adoptable candidates and probably are, frankly, a liability to other people.
Yeah.
So today's big theme of everything is just you gotta fight that like good fight of continuing to help people understand that dogs are animals.
Yeah.
They are not humans. They don't take precedent over humans.
No.
It is your responsibility to keep everybody safe. There are dogs out there that can seriously hurt people. There are dogs out there that should be euthanized.
100%.
And there are a lot of people trying to nice over all of that and make it seem like it's not the case. And you've got to keep fighting against that.
Yep.
Those are my opinions.
Controversial. I'm right there with you, man. You know, I think I already canceled myself with the whole living on a farm conversation we had, I'm sure.
Hilarious.
So I definitely get it. I mean, I think it's just the product of our time and environment now.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's like people literally see dogs as equals. It's not the case.
Listen, you could love your dog so much.
Yeah.
And they're animal rights, right?
Yeah.
They deserve to be treated fairly. They deserve to be protected, right? But when it comes to situations that involve safety, they are still not people. They're still not people.
No.
So that's what we got.
Yep.
Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yep.
We'll catch you on the next one.
We'll see you.